I played many games in my entire life, but naturally that doesn't mean I have enjoyed every single one of them. But there are also some special cases in which I wish I could have liked certain games more, because even if I didn't enjoy them, they still did some very good things. They appeal to me in different ways. I may be a hater, sure, but that doesn't mean I can't be objective. And that's what this video is about. To see the good in things that I don't like, or in some cases, hate. Seems simple enough, right? Then let's get to it!
Here's a game that needs no introduction. Fortnite. It's been here since 2017 and so far it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. By putting Fortnite on this video, I don't wanna sound like one of those pretentious idiots who are like, popular thing bad. Because if I don't like Fortnite, it's simply because Battle Royale shooters are not my thing, easy as that. My experience with this game was basically drop off the boss, collect materials and walk around for maybe 10-20 minutes and then get killed as soon as I came across someone else because I'm just not that good at competitive shooters. Even if I play this with friends, yeah, we will have good chats and all of that, but I was still not having fun with the game itself. I didn't hate it at all though, it was simply an experience that made me say, oh yeah, this genre is unfortunately not for me, and that is okay. It's been a few years since the last time I touched this game though, so I'm open to the idea of giving it a new chance someday. Maybe playing the game with a mouse and keyboard can make a huge difference, and besides, it wouldn't be too bad because if there's one thing I really like and respect about this game, is the amount of content and updates it constantly receives. I have many friends who still play it to this day, so even if I don't want to, I'm always being updated with what is going on. I see tons of new weapons, emotes, dances, accessories and skins. Then there's the new game modes, concerts and even changing the entire map, it's insane! All of these things are so good that they honestly make me feel jealous. Did you think I would love to play as Chun-Li or Leon S. Kennedy, Nathan Drake, Omni-Man, Goku, or the goddamn Chapulín Colorado? God! These crossovers pull my Mexican strings so hard that I was willing to download the game just to buy the skins. Luckily for me, I'm constantly broke.
Wait, no, what the hell? That's not lucky, I'm struggling!
I can only imagine things aren't always as perfect as they seem. But from an outsider's perspective, I constantly see my friends and other people enjoy themselves whenever they play Fortnite. And I mean, yeah, after more than 6 years since it released, I'm stunned at how it still has a lot of events while keeping a very loyal fanbase. The only other game I've seen that has managed to keep its fans happy for the most part is Final Fantasy XIV. That is very impressive. So yeah, even though I dislike playing Fortnite, I respect the hell out of this game. It's no secret to anyone that I'm a huge Yakuza fan. I played every single game in the franchise that has been localized. Even at their worst, they're still awesome games I love so much. But if you have paid attention to previous videos, you might have noticed I don't think very fondly of Yakuza 5. For many years I've always said the same. I don't like it, I hate the ending so much. This is a game that left such a sour taste in my mouth for years to the point in which I can say, maybe I've been too harsh on it. I mean, the game still has issues that made me not enjoy it. There's the awful pacing, the story is far from being one of my favorites. I also dislike how they use the word Jume every 5 seconds because it makes the dialogue feel pretentious. There's the fact that Akiyama is only playable for 2 chapters. The game has a lot of content, sure, but like, a lot. So much content in fact that for me it felt bloated. And I really don't like the ending at all. Except for the Shinada, the cell phone cutscene, god, that makes me cry every single time. Now yeah, and I also wanna mention, I played this on the original release for the PlayStation 3, and let me tell you, the frame rate was so bad it made me not enjoy the combat, that's insane! But even if my feelings towards Yakuza 5 have been negative for years, I could still see a few good things about it, and that's exactly what I'm gonna tell you about right now. First, let's talk about Haruka, every single person's favorite part of the game.
Nobody has ever said that.
Okay, but jokes aside, I actually don't dislike this section like many people do. Yeah, I can understand if you don't like the radical shift in gameplay from 3D brawling to a rhythm game. But given that I am a fan of rhythm games, I actually don't mind this section so much. But even if you move the gameplay aside, Haruka's story actually surprised me in some aspects. When I heard her plot was about her becoming an idol, I rolled my eyes at the idea because, as I've said in the past, I don't really care much about idols. But to my surprise, Haruka's story actually made me get invested. Sure, it shows you the pretty side about the idol industry. The upbeat music, the cute dances, how overly wholesome everything is, and how Haruka's work inspires other people. But at the same time, you have the ugly side about it too. Fierce competition, creepy fans, and horrible executives that try to get the girls to sleep with them in exchange of fame. Yakuza 5 wasn't afraid to explore this side of the industry, and I commend it for that. It's basically what I was expecting Tokyo Mirage Sessions to do with its story. Wanna make me get invested in something I don't care about? This is how you do it. By showing me the bad things, you also make me appreciate the good things. So yeah, even though it's only 2 chapters long, Haruka's story actually got my attention. Literally the only thing I actively hated about it was the character of Mirai Park. I don't care if she was nice to you for like 2 scenes. She's a horrible, manipulative person that the game tries really hard to make likable. But if you wanna talk about my absolute favorite thing about Yakuza 5, look no further than Tatsuo goddamn Shinada! Now listen to me! This broke-ass person isn't just one of the best main characters in all of Yakuza, he's also the most humane! Tatsuo Shinada is a character whose dreams were shattered years ago. For 15 years, he spent his life making up excuses and running away from his problems. But despite all of that, his charisma and personality are such that he's able to win the love of anyone he comes across. That includes the player. It's so easy to like him. Oh, and yeah, his story is also phenomenal. It's a plot about rekindling the fire inside of him while unveiling a conspiracy related to an incident that crushed his dreams. It's so funny because Shinada's story is like the most inconsequential to the main plot. Do you wanna know how Shinada gets involved with the overall story? Like this!
この男誰なんだ
彼が大悟さんの友人で元プロ野球選手で球界を追放されて白です。よろしくお願いします。
It's so weird because in that context, Shinada's story feels like an afterthought. It's like they gave his story to a different writer, but said writer delivered one of the best characters and one of the greatest stories in all of Yakuza. It achieves so much in just a few chapters. Wanna make Yakuza 5 a game about dreams? This character is all you needed. He's so likable, his story is super interesting, and it gets the point across of what the game is trying to achieve. And the best part is, Shinada didn't need to dox himself on live television. Even when my dislike for Yakuza 5 was at its highest, I will always say the exact same thing.
Yeah, Yakuza 5 kinda sucks, except the Shinada part. Like, no dude, seriously, the Shinada part is like peak Yakuza, it's so damn good!
It's so funny, but also kinda sad how this little caveman showed up, became one of the best stories in all of Yakuza, and then never returned ever again. If you don't count the mobile game, that is. He literally quit at his peak. Oh yeah, and one last thing I also wanna add. The music in this game is like one of the best in the whole franchise, probably a top 5 among everything Ryuga Gotoku Studios has ever done. Have you ever heard Affected Fight? Have you ever listened to Battle for the Dream? Hell, you know what? I actually like Konan Janai! I'm sorry you had to see that. In all honesty, Yakuza 5 is a game I wanna give another fair shot in the future. I've warmed up to other aspects of it as time has passed, like Kiryu's story, it's actually pretty good. And my roommate played it recently and he loved the hell out of it. Maybe a second playthrough on a console that doesn't run on 10 FPS will make me appreciate it more. but only after I play Infinite Wealth, the Kurohyou games, and replay Lost Judgment. Sorry! Anyway, let's move to the next game. Ooh, here's one I think people are gonna hate me for. Signalis. No matter where I look at, every single person I know who has played this game loves the hell out of it. We're not even talking about, oh yeah, it's good. It's like universal praise. I've never come across a single person who dislikes Signalis. Except for me.
You!
The reason for that is easy to explain. I didn't find Signalis scary in the slightest. Yeah, it was weird sometimes, but aside from the very beginning, when I was just getting familiar with the game, there was not a single moment that had me screaming, sweating, or even on the defensive. At first the game started to lose its scare factor when I realized how easy it was to avoid combat, and then it got frustrating with enemies constantly respawning and the overabundance of puzzles. They're not bad, in fact, aside from the final one I could solve all of them without a guide. But there just came a point in which they all got so tedious and drawn out I simply lost interest. And with how limited your inventory is in this game, I was constantly going back and forth between save rooms, new areas, puzzles, and so on and so on. I was stressed out, but not in a "man, this is so scary" sort of way, but rather in a "dude, I just wanna get a move on" sort of way. When your horror game has me more frustrated than scared, I don't think it's doing a good job, especially on me, since it can be pretty easy to scare me at times. What's that? I really wish I could like Signalis more, because what it does right is genuinely interesting to me. The game's atmosphere is incredible. It does a great job in telling you how messed up the world has become. The graphics are also great. They resemble an early PC or even an early PS1 era game, but still manages to feel unique on its own. The monster design especially benefits from this, since the graphics make it very hard to tell what you're up against. It adds some sort of unique, messed up weirdness to them. In fact, that's another good thing I have to say. The game is very weird, but in a cool way. It's like a Lovecraftian package that, yeah, it's strange, but it knows how to get your attention. In the imagery, in the monsters, in the world building, and in the story, which I also really like. Honestly, even though I wasn't enjoying my time playing this game, I will still feel some sort of joy when I will come across some notes. These notes give you a better insight on what is going on and the world you inhabit. I was very invested, trying to connect the dots on how things ended up the way they were, and it was so interesting to read about the androids, the different models, what each specializes in, what sort of personality they tend to have, and how they relate to humans. Signalis baffles me on so many levels. It has so many things I really like. A great art style, interesting lore, an engaging story, and a unique identity. But the gameplay experience was so awful for me that I didn't like the game. I repeat, this is a horror game that had me more frustrated rather than scared. It also didn't help that in the same year I also played Faith: The Unholy Trinity, another indie horror game that gave me a lot of fun, tons of scares, invested me in the world and story, and achieved so much with what little it had. So, yeah, that just made Signalis worse in my eyes. However, I can still see why many people love the hell out of it. But sadly, it just didn't do it for me. Sometimes that just happens. It's like that one friend I have who really hates Yakuza 0. We all have that one universally loved game we don't like. Well, maybe. I guess. Alright, why don't we turn the tables around and talk about a universally hated game? Sonic Forces. Okay, that is a huge exaggeration. This game does have its fans, but like, it's still disliked for the most part. And that is because Sonic Forces is a nothing game. It's one of those titles you can beat by just pressing one button. The level design is so uninspiring and each stage is over in like 30 seconds. Classic Sonic is here, but this is the worst he's ever played and his levels are easily the worst. And the game has a pretentious story that acts like it's super serious, but doesn't go beyond a baby's plot. You don't lose much by playing Sonic Forces. outside of 4 hours of your life. But you also don't win much by playing it. It's the most meh game ever made. However, now that a few years have passed, I've come to appreciate two particular aspects about it. The first and most obvious one is the soundtrack. And yeah, I know, it's a well-known fact that no matter how awful a Sonic game may be, the soundtrack will always deliver no matter what. Why did you think there's so many idiots always parroting the same thing? Yeah, Sonic is just banger OSTs with bad gameplay demos. But even when Forces first released, the soundtrack got a very mixed reception. Many people criticized it for being way too different and for being forgettable. And to be fair, they were not wrong for saying that. Sonic Forces' soundtrack is vastly different. Instead of the usual rock and orchestra, we got a bigger emphasis on techno, EDM, and even some rap. But just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad in the slightest. Honestly, there are some great bangers here. Fighting Onward, Nowhere to Run, Justice, Fading Reality, these are all genuinely good songs. And of course, we can't forget Infinite's theme, which is the most try-hard edgy song you'll listen in your life. But that's what makes it so appealing, ironically. Hell, they even continued with this style of music in the cyberspace levels from Sonic Frontiers, and people love those tracks. The only real awful thing about the soundtrack are the classic Sonic songs. They're so damn terrible. But I mean, you can say that about classic Sonic in Forces as a whole, but the rest of them, no, they're genuinely good. As for the criticism of the soundtrack being forgettable, I wanna say I agree, but that is because the levels in the game only last like 10 seconds, so there's no time at all for the songs to stick with you. But give it a listen online, and I'm sure you'll find a greater appreciation for it. As for the other thing I like about Sonic Forces, the avatar. I mean, what can I say? I've been a Sonic fan for at least 20 years. Around the 2000s, I, like many others, loved to share my love for the Sonic franchise by playing those flash games where you could make your own original character. Was it cringe? I mean, yeah, maybe, but who cares? It was very special, and the fact that they put a character builder in an official Sonic game was honestly pretty crazy. And the best part is, it was so much fun! I can't describe the joy I felt when I was first making my playable character. And even after that, it was still fun to try to unlock more clothing options and accessories for my OC. And hell, moving that aside, I still enjoy the avatar gameplay to some degree. I just wish they had fleshed it out better. Like, say, imagine if all levels offer different routes, and each route lets you use a different whiz power necessary to beat the level. It would have been so cool, and it would have definitely helped with replayability. But just like the rest of Sonic Forces, it fell way too short. I still enjoy the avatar for what it is, and personally, I wouldn't mind if it returns someday in a future game. Just, you know, make sure that game is actually good. Okay, here we are at the final game of the list, and perhaps the main reason why you click on this video. Fire Emblem Fates, a game well known by any person who watches my channel. Ever since 2018, I've been relentless on how much I hate it. With 3 horrible stories, unbearable main characters, weebo pandering, maps that are either way too boring or way too gimmicky, and how intelligent systems used to show it in our faces all the time. I've never once been subtle about how much I hate this game. However, even if this is one of my most despised games of all time, I still can say it's objectively the worst game ever made. No, that's actually Dead Rising 4. Because if I am to get a bit more reasonable, there's still a bunch of things that Fates does right and I actually enjoy. The most obvious of them all, the soundtrack. Yeah, I know that is to be expected, but it's true! Aside from me, if you ask any Fates hater to say something good about the game, they'll most likely reply with the soundtrack. It's borderline criminal how good it is, with amazing tracks such as No Justice, Alight, Road Taken. Oh, Road Taken is so good! And it's insane because the songs are vastly different between Conquest and Birthright. It's so cool! I especially like the latter due to the Japanese instruments it uses. Actually, speaking of that, let me tell you something. Birthright may be one of the most boring Fire Emblem games in existence, but I still really like its Japanese-inspired setting. The Kingdom of Hoshido is one of the most unique settings in all of Fire Emblem from a pure aesthetical standpoint. My favorite part about it is how it translates the usual conventions of Fire Emblem to be more Japanese. For example, instead of your regular mages that use tomes to attack with the elements, now you have diviners who use scrolls that summon the spirits of animals to attack their enemies. Then you have the fighters, which are known to use axes. Well, in Hoshido, they are now Oni savages and wield clubs instead. And then you wonder, what will be the equivalent of a mercenary? Why, a samurai, of course, it's so cool! And aside from that, you still have unique classes like the Basara, the Oni chieftain, and even ninjas. Actually, that's just something Fates does well in general. The amount of unique and fun classes it leaves at your disposal. It lets players have fun and mess around with different supports and builds. And speaking of the mechanics, there's also how Fates rebalanced the pair-up system, no longer making it an instant way to break the game, but rather a mechanic you always have to plan accordingly to overcome challenges. But even if this change was a huge step up, the gameplay still has a lot of issues, like the weapon debuffs, the maps being boring and or gimmicky, or the fact that the Fates Royals are the only great units in the game. Oh, and yeah, speaking of that, here's another thing. Even if most of the characters in this game piss me off, there's still a handful of them that I enjoy. I even once made a video some time ago where I talk about the Fates characters I like or tolerate the most, if you wanna check it out. Even in recent times, I've come to slightly appreciate other characters I didn't mention there, like Charlotte. I think she's cool now. And the last thing I wanna mention is the presentation. Shadows of Valentia is still my favorite in that department from the 3DS games. But Fates is no slouch either. As someone who has played Awakening many times, I am still impressed with how much Fates improve upon the looks of the locales, the menus, and even the combat animations, the character models, and the character portraits. Except for Anna having 6 fingers. We don't talk about that. At the end of the day, yeah, no, I still really hate this game, and you can bet I will continue to insult it in future videos from time to time. But that doesn't mean I can't be reasonable. In fact, you can say that about the entire franchise. The only reason I'm very critical about it is because, yeah, on one hand, I'm very petty. On the other, it's because I care. I really, really care. I mean, why else do you think I have like 40 videos about this series on this channel? I'm just that passionate about it. If it does something good, if it has something I like, I'll recognize it and I'll be sure to tell everyone about it.
Video games are so fascinating to me because even though there's some titles that sadly didn't click with me, or in some cases I hate it, I think it's very cool that they can still have redeeming qualities I can give them praise for. I guess that just goes to show that there is always something good in the bad. Unless it's Dead Rising 4. Yeah, no, that is literally the worst game ever made. It has 0 redeeming qualities and I curse its very existence. But anyway, what about you guys? Is there something you really like about a game you didn't enjoy? Then please, let me know in the comments, and while you do that, thank you so much for your time, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you could please support the channel, you know, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, or Patreon, that will mean so much to me. Have a wonderful day, and take care! I'll see you next time!